All right, even if no one is here, I will do this into the void and it will be here later for someone to watch. So let's go ahead and read the blurb first. This is chapter 8, Atlantis, the home of the master race. And this chapter is mainly about Hans Hoerbiger, I'm not really sure how to say that, and his theories concerning Atlantis and world ice. He embraced more volkish thought and eventually eschewed what he called false science. If it sounds familiar, it is. History rhymes yet again. The 1920s and the 2020s echo each other with ideas about false science, but that is what happens when you lie to an entire populace about something as fragile as public health. In times of great confusion and strife, many try to find an alternate route, and I am unsure that I can blame them. I don't even believe in throwing the baby out with the bathwater, though. I think that we have made tremendous progress. One of the issues is tribalism in politics. Recently, a warning has gone out about taking Tylenol while pregnant, which has actually always been a recommendation by the producers of Tylenol. But in order to virtue signal, stay with their tribe, so to speak, there seems to be a rash of women posting to TikTok while pregnant, taking Tylenol. I take a lot of these things from TikTok with a grain of salt anyway. I never know what's real, which feeds into the idea of the hyper unreal. You never know what you're looking at anymore in terms of propaganda. If these people are just doing this because they get clicks for it, who knows? But both sides fall into the pitfalls of being anti science. The term trust the science was touted by many on the so called left during 2020 and 21. The hallmark of the early 21st century, once more, is inversion. Saying an empty phrase like trust the science is just as much anti science as believing that germs do not exist. Once again, I find this book an illuminating exploration into human nature and what happens when distrust in institutions flares up during chaotic times. And then here's this, just because I was talking about the Tylenol situation. This is from 2017, and they say, we actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today. I'm not really sure what the context was, but here it is, way back in 2017, Tylenol telling their customers, don't take our drug if you are pregnant. So now let's go ahead and read our chapter, Chapter 8, Atlantis, the home of the master race. Quote, some say the world will end in ice. Robert Frost. Science hasn't yet been able to give us a completely satisfactory answer to the question of how the universe came to be. The occultists are much bolder. From time to time, they have advanced different theories, always colorful, about the origin of the world and of human beings. The Nazis favored the occult cosmology of an Austrian named Hans Hoerbiger. And what's interesting about this guy that the book does not mention is that he did form his own company. And in fact, his own company, for whatever reason, has scrubbed this article they wrote about him off of their website. I had to go to the Wayback Machine in order to dig it up. I found it because I was looking for images of him. So what I find kind of interesting about my little dive today was that this website right here has been totally scrubbed from their website, and I'm wondering why. So he did start his own company, which the book does not mention. In 1900, Hoerbiger and the engineer Friedrich Wilhelm Rogler founded an engineer's office in Budapest, which was moved to Vienna in 1903. By 1925, it had developed into the Hoerbiger & Co. company. Alfred Hoerbiger, one of Hoerbiger's sons, joined the company in 1925. Right? And this is still a company to this very day, but for some reason the company does not want to associate themselves with him. I just found that kind of interesting. Born in 1860 to a poor family in Carinthia, and that's Carinthia, Austria. Here's an image of a castle there. Looks beautiful. Another image of it. Hoerbiger became a blacksmith's apprentice as a youth, and when he scraped together enough money, studied mechanics in Vienna. Eventually, he became a mechanical engineer and inventor, right? And as I said, his company still is a company today. As a boy, he was fond of lying outdoors at night and gazing up at the sky, and the intuition came to him that the moon was an ocean of ice. He extended the vision as a young engineer in the instant when he saw molten steel poured onto snow and the ground explode violently. He took this as a microcosm for the kind of cataclysm that might have given birth to the universe. In the next 2 decades, he explored the tension between cosmic ice and fire, which culminated in the publication of a 772-page book, Glacial Cosmology, right? So like glacial cosmology, basically. So here's an image I found of that. And we'll get into his theory of the Earth and how it was formed. And that was published in 1913. The world ice theory is that the universe came into existence when a gigantic chunk of cosmic ice collided with the sun, causing an explosion whose continuing aftermath explains the Great Deluge, the Ice Age, and the differentiation of races. This glacial cosmology went so far as to offer an entirely new theory about the origin of the moon, one which bears a striking similarity to Gurdjieff's. The moon, said Hoerbiger, was originally an independent planet circling the sun in an independent orbit. It eventually trespassed on the Earth's orbit, becoming Earth's satellite. The present moon, Hoerbiger continued, was not the first to be captured by the Earth. Primary, secondary, and tertiary moons had already collided with our planet, and the present moon, captured about 13,000 years ago, will eventually crash into Earth 2 billion years hence. And then I also have an image of that I saw recently of oh yeah, this is an image of his theory. This is another one. And then this is an image of Venus that was taken by, I believe, a Japanese space rover. So I think this is all very fascinating. So we'll leave it here on an image of his series. Hoerbiger's ideas were happily pounced upon by occultists, with good reason. He believed that on the 3 previous occasions when the moon had collided with the Earth, the catastrophes which resulted were recorded in the legends about the flood, about the lost continent of Atlantis, and about the twilight of the gods. So I also found, Atlantis is one of these perennial things that people come back to over and over again. You see the ancient alien people talk about it. Ancient aliens pisses me off. I don't think it gives enough credit to our ancient ancestors. But yeah, the Atlantis theory is a perennial favorite among sort of kooky occult type people. And here's an image of the assembly of gods around Jupiter's throne in the 1500s here, the twilight of the gods. Atlantis has always been the favorite place of all occultists. So let's just look at Atlantis here. According to ancient tradition, it was a large island in the Atlantic Ocean. Plato described it as larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined. He spoke of it glowingly as a powerful nation, which later was completely engulfed by the sea. And people have been trying to prove that Atlantis, exists or existed for centuries. Whether the continent of Atlantis ever really existed or was the product of human imagination, it has provided ample occasion for speculation. To occultists, it became associated with man's search for hidden wisdom. The supposed Atlanteans, like the real people, presumably developed supernormal powers. They were the models upon which esoteric groups patterned themselves, usually according to a blueprint envisioned by their masters in a trance-like state. And I think, honestly, like my theory about that is that when you do these things, you're breaking the veil, so to speak. You're coming closer to the other realm, and you're opening yourself up to what I believe, to be demonic possession. And so, of course, they're giving you a bunch of false information about the world. That's just what I think. Anyway, Atlantis provided these groups with many hours of lectures and workshops, and thousands of books have been written about it. Amazing when you consider that the only original references to it occur in the two works of Plato. In neither of these works, moreover, does Plato claim to have first-hand information. One of his characters merely quotes the Athenian jurist Solon. We are never sure whether this is an accurate account of Solon's belief or merely a literary convention. The latest theory, of course, and I remind my audience, this book is from the 70s. So the latest theory, and this too has been disputed, holds that Plato's Atlantis may have been confused with the real Aegean island of Terra, devastated by a tremendous volcanic explosion in about 1500 BC. Enthusiasts have sought Atlantis in all sorts of unlikely places. The German volkish occult groups placed it in Thule, the northernmost part of the earth, and made it the original home of the Aryan master race. They were delighted to have Hoerbiger explain why that home had disappeared. The glaciers caused by the last falling moon, when they melted, engulfed the whole Atlantean civilization in a deluge, memories of which existed in the legends of all people. This was the fall of man. From this period he degenerated. The occult tradition teaches that some wise and powerful members of the highly developed race went underground and saved themselves from the Great Flood. Disciples of Hoerbiger, anyway, also we're pleased to point out that the age of giants set forth in myth and legend was fully explained by his theory. When a satellite approaches nearer to the Earth, the gravitational pull of the Earth becomes greater, tides become stronger, and as Peter Colissimo explains in Timeless Earth, and here's an image of him and his book here, Timeless Earth, as a second consequence, human beings and creatures in general will become taller. This is the only possible explanation of the huge species of plants and animals that have existed on Earth, and a race of men 16 feet tall. The increase of men's stature and likewise of their intelligence is also due, according to this theory, to an increase in the intensity of cosmic rays. Hoerbiger believed that cosmic events recur, right? That's also, eternal return. Nietzsche talks about that. The Ice Age, which seemed to him to recur in cycles of 6,000 years, was about to come again. Only this time, supermen who had learned to control cosmic fire and ice would have the option to stop the cycle and make their civilization immortal. But Hoerbiger was not all cosmic ice and fire. Indeed, his metaphysics also took in the view that there was a world apart from this one, where the laws of cosmic ice were not operable. The Judeo-Christian notion of primitive man slowly inching his way up to civilization did not accord well with the volkish Hoerbigerians. Hoerbigerians. To them, it was precisely the other way around. Moons ago, Aryan men had created a marvelous civilization, which had been destroyed by the Ice Age. We had yet to approach their splendor. Traces of the lost paradise existed for those who had eyes to see in ancient giant monuments, statues, complex mathematical and engineering constructions. So here's another image of a book about Atlantis. Hoerbiger was one of many in the scientific community who aligned themselves with Nazis. After World War I, Jewish scientists and scholars were more readily accepted into the universities since the Republic no longer allowed them to be arbitrarily excluded. The increase in Jewish participation in major universities, along with the anti-Semitic propaganda, accounted for the push among German scholars and scientists to purge the Jews and thus advance their own careers. Some, of course, were not just opportunistic, but really believed the volkish arguments. Hans Hoerbiger was at the height of his fame in 1925 when he issued a declaration to Austrian and German scientists. And then I do have another image of him here with his son and some other people, but let's scroll up to the man himself here. Quote, "You must choose, and right now, whether you want to be with us or against us. While Hitler cleans up politics, Hans Hoerbiger will take care of the false sciences. The doctrine of the eternal ice will herald the regeneration of the German people. Watch out. Come over to our side before it is too late." At 65, Hoerbiger had pitted himself against orthodox astronomy. His appeal, obviously, was to emotion rather than reason. With his white flowing beard, very much like that of his fellow Viennese Guido von List, Hoerbiger too played the role of mystical prophet, warning that objective science is a pernicious invention, a totem of decadence. He sought to replace it with an inspired piercing of the mysteries. Illumination would come intuitively with the development of higher consciousness. In the post-World War I period, Albert Einstein, and we have an image of Einstein here. Here he is, famous image of Albert Einstein. He was the most famous scientist in Germany at this time. Hostility toward him increased in direct proportion to his growing fame. German scientists were made acutely aware that he was a Jew, a pacifist, and a radical. His theories posed a threat to some experimental physicists, who saw him in the eventual ascendancy of theoretical physics. His theories were labeled meaningless or universifiable abstractions, or else he was accused of not being original. Men who championed the National Socialist cause concentrated on him as their chief scapegoat. Hoerbiger was one of these men. His success as an engineer had set him up well financially. Again, he had his own company, which exists to this very day. And he started what amounted to a political campaign, trumpeting his visionary theories like a revolutionary agitator. He wanted to wean people away from the uselessness of mathematics and to replace it with an enlightened knowing. His propaganda spread through mass media tracts, posters, meetings, and lectures. A monthly periodical, the key to world events, went to German and Austrian Hoerbigerians. His organization published many books, articles, and pamphlets. Hoerbiger was greatly helped in disseminating his propaganda by Nazi stormtroopers. Dietrich Eckart introduced Hitler to Hoerbiger's ideas, and it was a meeting of like minds. Both men knew the importance of mythology in the lives of the masses. The stormtroopers among Hoerbiger's followers used the same tactics as Hitler in disseminating their fantasies. Other astronomers' meetings were invaded with the cries of, "Down with the orthodox scientists! Rivals were proselytized in the streets." Oh, sorry, that's not part of the quote. Rivals were proselytized in the streets, handed leaflets which threatened, quote, When we have won, you and your like will be begging in the gutter. Kind of sounds like Stephen Miller. Hoerbiger admonished industrialists, even though he was one. Either you will learn to believe in me or you will be treated as an enemy. They were told to have prospective employees sign a statement reading, quote, I swear that I believe in the theory of eternal ice. Other scientists at first stood their ground and attacked Hoerbiger's theories. So let's scroll down to him and his son. Gradually, as Hitler's strongmen helped to swell his pseudoscience into a popular movement, they were silenced. The system meshed well with the temper of the times and was perfectly tailored to Nazi mythology. Hoerbiger died in 1931 before he could see some of the consequences of his dogma. Hitler Youth were recruited to spread the word. In 1935, Heinrich Himmler, an admirer, established the Ahnenerbe, the ancestral research branch of the SS, for the purpose of subsidizing researches into occult theories of ancestral origins of Aryanism. He sent the German playwright Edmund Kiss, and that's a picture of him here, to Abyssinia to look for supporting evidence for Hoerbiger's theories, and made another Hoerbiger disciple, Dr. Hans Robert Skoletius, I don't know how to say that, head of the Ahnenerbe branch, which was to concentrate on weather forecasts resting on the world ice cosmology. Literature about this cosmology was handed out freely to high-ranking Nazis. A German expedition to Tibet tried to find fossilized remains of giants. Anyone who attacked Hoerbiger was promptly suppressed by the Ahnenerbe. In 1936, despite rumors that he was a Freemason and a Roman Catholic, Hoerbiger's son, Hans Robert Hoerbiger, and that's, let's see, I think that's this guy right here, was appointed Cosmic Ice Führer by Himmler, who insisted that if the theory were shorn of its fantastic elements, which might hurt his flawless reputation, it would be scientific enough to constitute a really Aryan intellectual treasure. A Nazi pamphlet announced that cosmic ice stood in the same relation to Einstein's theory of relativity as the Edda did to the Talmud. No one was in a position to do more for Hoerbiger's cosmology than Hitler. He promised that when he built his ideal city in Linz, he would dedicate an observatory to Hoerbiger. After Hitler came to power, a number of celebrated engineers and scientists succumbed to the cosmic ice theory. A tract drew attention to the natural affinity between the two self-made Austrians. Our Nordic ancestors grew amidst the ice and snow, and this is why a belief in a world of ice is the natural heritage of Nordic men. It was an Austrian, Hitler, who drove out the Jewish politicians, and another Austrian, Hoerbiger, will drive out the Jewish scientists. By his own example, Hitler has shown that an amateur is better than a professional. Interesting. It kind of reminds me of all these talking heads on these podcasts today. It was left to another amateur to give us a thorough understanding of the universe. Let me see if anyone's here. It's Terry. It's just you and me today. The giants were Nephilim. Yeah, totally. Yes, they do. That's why I'm reading this book, because I think it's important to see the parallels and to see that these ideas never seem to die for whatever reason. The few times that these two messianic leaders met, Hoerbiger actually out-talked Hitler in his harangue against modern science, which not only did not understand the why of anything, but had managed to separate man from the spirit. Jews like Einstein and Freud, and of course we have, I do have an image of Freud here, I just got to make it clear. I kind of hate all these dudes. Like, I really think they're all horrible, especially Freud. And of course, we have a picture with him and his famous cigar. Um, Jews like Einstein and Freud distinguished themselves in their fields and at the same time, helped to destroy the belief in magic. They were pacifists in the bargain. Einstein had called World War I, quote, a fateful misunderstanding, an incomprehensible deception, and Freud went so far as to claim that all war was a mass regression to a primitive state, writing, quote, never has any event been destructive of so much that is valuable in the commonwealth of humanity, nor so debasing to the highest that we know. With Hoerbiger, on the other hand, Hitler was comfortably in the realm of Wagner and Nietzsche. And this is actually one of my favorite literary feuds of all time. When Nietzsche takes down Wagner, maybe I'll read it sometime. But it's really fascinating. They were friends at one point, and then they had a falling out over, I believe, Wagner's opera Percival. The magic of myth would be reestablished in Germany with its giants and dwarfs, masters and slaves, transgressions, sacrifices, and punishments. Hitler took great pride in being the enemy of, quote, Jewish liberal science. He confessed to Rosching, quote, I thank my destiny for saving me from the state-granted privilege of acquiring blinkers in the form of a so-called scientific education. I have been able to steer clear of many naive assumptions. Now I am reaping the benefit. I approach everything with a vast, ice-cold freedom from prejudice. End quote. He often expounded on cosmic catastrophe at the dinner table, holding that, quote, we shall never raise the veil between our present world and that which preceded us unless intuition teaches exact science the path to follow. Hoerbiger said Hitler ranked with Ptolemy and Copernicus. His theory that water is in reality melted ice instead of ice is being frozen water amounted to a revolution, and everybody rebelled against it, him proving once again that science grappled with the spirit of routine. I just lost my place. Oh my goodness. Hoerbiger was not accepted by the scientific establishment because the fact is, said Hitler, men do not wish to know. Hitler based, think about that. They just don't want to know. That's why he's rejected. Hitler based some important decisions on Hoerbigerian premises. For example, cosmic ice experts caused delays because they were concerned about the delicate balance between fire and ice. They feared a rocket in space might cause a global disaster. The military head of the first German rocket tests, Walter Dornberger, also relates that the work was delayed for months at a time because Hitler dreamed that no V-2 rocket would reach England. As an occultist, Hitler took his dreams quite literally. An aside about dreams, here's the uh, rocket scientist, Walter Dornberger. But my aside about dreams is not to trust anything in them. That's just what I have to say about that. Um, Hoerbiger's was not the only occult cosmological theory in which the Nazis believed. There was also the theory of the hollow earth, which received support in Germany after World War I. A leading proponent, Karl Neupert, held that the earth was a spherical bubble with humanity on the inside, not as commonly supposed on the outside. And this again is a theory that continues today. In World War II, certain German naval circles tried to apply the hollow earth theory. According to an article in Popular Astronomy in June 1946 entitled German Astronomy During the War, and, quote, they considered it helpful to locate the British fleet because the curvature of the earth would not obstruct observation. Visual rays were not suitable because of refraction, but infrared rays had less refraction. Accordingly, a party of about 10 men under the scientific leadership of Dr. Heinz Fischer, an infrared expert, was sent out from Berlin to the Isle of Rügen to photograph the British fleet with infrared equipment at an upward angle of some 45 degrees. The experiment did not work, nor did an earlier one called the Magdeburg Project, or Magdeburg Project. That's an image, this image here, in which an engineer who was connected with the municipal government of that city devised a way of testing the hollow earth theory by sending up a rocket. And I think this really, it really shows us like how occult belief, especially dark occult belief, can lead to these fatal flaws in one's thinking and um, setbacks in war. If you're thinking that you can't even develop these rockets, right? Which I think is one of the reasons why the United States developed the nuclear bomb and was able to, because they were less invested in these kooky, dark occult theories. That's just my take on it. So, as Willie Ley writes in Rockets, Missiles, and Men in Space, it began like a story by Jules Verne. A mentally decrepit philosopher had written a badly printed pamphlet about the true shape of the universe, in which he insisted that the Earth is the universe, that we live inside a hollow globe of the dimensions of Earth, that there is nothing outside the globe, and that the universe of the astronomers is only an optical illusion. And I hear people say things like that, like space is fake, blah, blah, blah. And I guess I'm reading this to let people know that these are old, dark occult ideas that the Nazis really enjoyed. If the rocket crashed at the opposite end of the Earth, that would prove people lived inside a hollow globe. The rocket cost 25,000 marks, and another 15,000 were spent on a city holiday. Several tests ended in disaster. Either the rocket did not get off the ground, or it smashed, or it flew away, never to be seen again. This is Albert Speer. He's going to be quoted here in a minute. After the war, Dr. Fischer protested that the Nazis had forced him to do crazy things, which had taken him away from more fruitful research, such as he was able to engage in later when he helped America to develop the H-bomb, right? We poached all the people that were useful to us, which is another interesting facet of this whole situation. Teutonic mythology speaks of the end of all things, the twilight of the gods and men, when the world will be consumed in flames because the age of evil has come. And in fact, I guess there was recently some kind of rapture cult that everyone was talking about. I didn't have time to look into it, but I saw a little bit about it. Winter will follow winter, and a world chained in ice, and then a new age will come with a regenerating race. The apocalyptic vision within the occult tradition is similar, right, guys? So my mantra, one of them is stay safe, don't join a death cult. The fall and the accompanying flood were punishments for man's transgressions and will purge him of sin. After the deluge, a second coming. Hoerbiger and Hitler believed in this mystique. Modern man in the 20th century had a chance to redeem the species. Hoerbiger and Hitler would point the way. By spring 1944, the Nazis grew desperate. Hitler must have grave doubts about man's redemption. The turning point had come for them in the Russian campaign of 1941, and this I find very interesting. Advised by the Hoerbigerians to expect a mild winter, Hitler did not even provide his troops with adequate warm clothing. The icy winds did not blow away his mystical faith that he could win. The Russian winter was Germany's most serious military crisis, and Hitler would never admit that he had been wrong. The Russian campaign mystified everyone else. Hitler had promised in his early days that Germany would never surrender again. If she could not conquer her enemies, she would drag them down to destruction with her. Once Hitler was convinced that Germany could not be saved, he made good his promise. When the American and Russian troops were outside of Berlin, Hitler ordered all food and clothing stores, all bridges and dams, all military, industrial, transportation, and communication facilities in the whole country destroyed. Any Germans who stood in the way were to be killed. And so here's Albert Speer, who was against, of course, this self-destruction. Albert Speer, non-mystical, was one of the few Nazi leaders who could still communicate with Hitler, and he was horrified at the order. He tried to argue Hitler out of it by appealing to a concern for the future. After all, many of those bridges, highways, and buildings were Speer's own creations, and as the chief architect of the Third Reich. Quote, "We must do everything to maintain, even if only in a primitive manner, a basis for the existence of the nation. We have no right to carry out demolitions which might affect the life of the people." Hitler's response was in keeping with the Superman myth. Quote, "If the war is to be lost, the nation will also perish. This fate is inevitable. There is no need to consider the basis of even most primitive existence any longer. On the contrary, it is better to destroy even that and to destroy ourselves." Part of me thinks he was like demonically possessed and trying to make a human sacrifice. Anyway, the nations had proved itself weak, and the future belongs solely to the stronger Eastern nation. Besides, those who remain after the battle are of little value, for the good have fallen. The Germans had proved themselves not to be ready yet to become the master race. Hitler's leadership had been wasted on them. They deserved to perish. Hitler himself committed suicide on April 30th, 1945, a deliberately chosen day, according to J. H. Brennan. Quote, "The dark initiate had remained true to his black creed to the very last, and had arranged his affairs so that even his suicide should be a sacrificial tribute to the powers of darkness. April 30th is the ancient feast of Beltane, the day which blends into Walpurgis night. It is perhaps the most important date in the whole calendar of Satanism." So that's, I read that one really quickly, I guess. That's chapter 8. Looks like 5 people are here. What is going on, my friends? All right, well, I guess I'll stick around if you guys have things you want to talk about. Jean Paul. Yeah, I don't like these guys either. Yeah, they're all they're all creeps. To me, they're all creeps. They're all a bunch of creeps who, you know, I'm a Christian and I believe they, they earned it, That's what happens when you don't pay attention to the word of Christ. That's just what I think. You like Freud, but you're a degenerate. I remember reading Freud for university and wanting to throw the book across the room. So I don't know. That was my initial reaction, and that was before any kind of like anything that I had to do with feminism. I just really was repulsed by him and his ideas. I've always been more into Jung. So, and they have such an interesting feud as well, Jung versus Freud. Hello, Oswald Spangler. Guten Tag. Will Coman. Terry says she believes in the hollow earth. All right. Well, hey, to each their own. I'm not very concerned with the earth's shape. It's not really something I think about very much. I just think it's interesting that these ideas never seem to die out and that the Nazis were super into them. His last name was Berger, and he wasn't even American. If Atlantis was the home of the master race, then the Celts are the master race. You're really obsessed with the Celts lately. That's interesting. I don't have any opinion on that. If Earth is round and the center is hollow, I guess it would make sense that the weight would be on the outside of the sphere, causing it to spin, I guess. Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I believe in round Earth. The Earth is round, but I also don't think it matters. Um, it's not something I like to get hung up on. Space is fake and gay. Do I have like a bunch of Nazis in my chat? If you're here, you missed the rapture. I guess we're all just not Christian enough to be taken up into the rapture. You missed the last one too. I'm cold just thinking about it. Hitler. I'm sorry. Hitler sounds literally retarded. Yeah, yeah, he does. Um, Yep, that's Beltane. So never underestimate the faith that these people had in the dark occult. Um, and everything to them was symbolic. You know, that's why there's so much numerology involved in Hitler and all of these things we've been reading. Walpurgis Nacht. I hate Max Blumenthal. You missed that day that we talked about Max Blumenthal and how I believe him to be a foreign asset of some kind. Um, I really, really dislike him. I think he's a demon. I think he's like just straight up evil. Just proclaimed that we're about to experience a second night of the long knives in the USA. Yeah, all these people want to gin people up for civil war. They're all bad actors. You know, they're they're people that do not want peace. They don't want people to get along because they wouldn't have a job otherwise. Okay, they wouldn't have anything to talk about. Um, so Terry asks, "What is the Night of the Long Knives?" 1934, and so this was the purge that took place. So here's the cursory Wikipedia on it. Um, and this took place in Nazi Germany from the 30th of June to the 2nd of July in 1934. Ordered a series of extrajudicial executions. I'm like, what is Max Blumenthal talking about? Who's going to be executed? What is his fear mongering crap talking about? Like, I don't follow, like, I really cannot stand him. So I really don't pay attention to him at all because he makes me upset. Like, and I'm not a masochist. I don't really like having things in my orbit that make me angry. Like, I think that's also something that's like really detrimental to your mental health. So it's not something that I'd recommend. If the earth is flat or hollow, it don't really impact. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. I think it's one of those things that people get hung up on in the conspiracy realm that like it just doesn't, to me it doesn't matter. And to me it's Nazi shit. So like I'm like already like off of it, you know? Um yeah, so Oswald says it was when the Nazis carried out many political assassinations, which consolidated. So who's Trump? Who are they going to assassinate? Oh, they want everyone to get into this civil war. It's like actually disgusting. Their rhetoric is disgusting. And to be quite honest, Max Blumenthal looks like a Nazi. Let's just look at Max Blumenthal one more time. We've done that before on this channel. But look at this guy. Ew. Look at him. Ew. Like, how can anyone trust this man? I don't understand. I don't get it. Uh you're scared. Don't be scared. That's what they want. They want so okay. If we're doing this and we're on dystopian deep dives, right? I'm gonna go ahead and spin my theories. But that's what they want. They want people to live in fear. They want people to live in the shock collar society where everyone lives in fear all the time, so that these demons like Max Blumenthal can feed off of your energy. That's what I truly think this at this point. Like, I don't, it sounds kind of kooky, I guess, but, I think they just want to feed off of your energy. They feed off of fear, just like Hitler. That's why I'm reading this. Um, I don't know what you mean by that, a turkey. I just think he's not someone anyone should give any credence to. Because I guess he just appeared with like Tucker Quartarlson. These people are paid by the enemies of America. Okay, they want you to live in fear. Looks like a Jewish Celtic Prince Harry, but way uglier. I don't even know. Like, I feel like they're both pretty ugly. Let's look up Prince Harry. Are we just hanging out right now? I guess so. Prince Cherry. Oops. Hold on. I'm typing with one hand. Yeah. Here's Prince Harry. Yeah, they both look, oh my goodness. Like, who picked this picture for him? This is terrifying. Both look so terrifying. Uh, Looks like a beta. DeJean Paul. I guess he looks like a really ugly version of Elijah Schaffer. DeJean Paul, does your name refer to a dog who dipped his paw in Dijon mustard? Goodness. Tucker is definitely an asset. They're demons, man. They want you to live in fear so they can feed off of your loosh. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's Wednesday. Might as well make it weird. You missed most of the stream. You're sorry. It's not a big deal. I don't really care. It's all good. It's all good. Maybe it does. Maybe your name does mean that. Um, I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than a lot of these things that these people talk about on the internet are old, dark occult beliefs. And it might be good to think of them with a grain of salt, you know? I've been through this and back with a lot of these theories, and I think that's why I bought this book. And I just think they're old Nazi things. I do have tabs open about Erica Kirk and her family, and their family's company is like a DoD thing for Arizona called Aztec. You can't make this stuff up. And of course, she's got the cross on. I think I'm going to save that for a different show, though, that I'm going to call like American Political Theater, maybe for Friday or Sunday or something. If you guys want to hang out, maybe I should do a poll. There's like people here. Like, oh, how do I even do that? No, that's not it. I don't even know how to do that. Press 1 if you want to continue to hang out. Maybe if anyone wants to come join me. But yeah, okay, so like I'm gonna take a short interlude here. Press 1 if you want this stream to continue. Press 2 if you're cool and you got more stuff to do today and you want to move on. I'll be right back. All right, it's looking like I have some ones going around. Uh, well, I find it relaxing. It's not meant for that. Like other people have said that. I mean, I could get really weird with it and put on like some like bells or like the Koshi wind chimes, but like I don't know. I find these to be very neutral. Um, so you're halfway through your coffee. Right. Well, I mean, what do you think I'm doing when I put that on? Anyway, maybe I should share some of this stuff that I found out about like the Kirks and stuff. Um, let's see. So, I guess yeah, I wanted to devote like a show to this, but like just the stuff that I found out like recently about his wife's family, it's kind of interesting. So, I'll go ahead and share it. So, her father wrote this book called The Desktop Business Intelligence Source Book, which I find interesting. Her family is pretty deeply embedded in research and development for the Department of Defense, but it seems like, I mean, that can always be kind of a red herring, but they have this thing called Aztec, which seems to deal with traffic management and data analytics for traffic and road, and looks like they work directly with the Department of Transportation out there in Arizona. Um, do I have anything else open about them? I think those are the two things that I have open about them. We also have recently this story here. I'll just do a link dump. Why not? We have this story here that ties into my idea of technofascism, the marriage of technology and the state, where Google admits to censorship under Biden and promises to end bans of YouTube accounts of thousands of Americans censored for political speech, which I find very interesting. Um, I kind of flew under the radar during that time. I did have some things that were taken down almost immediately. Anything that was critical of the magic kitten medicine that they wanted everybody to take was struck down, but my channel was never taken away because I have such a small reach. I think I'm like a little tiny blip on their radar, if anything. I thought this story was interesting. We have the U.S. Secret Service dismantles imminent telecommunications threat in New York tri-state area. I find this to be really, these images to be interesting, and I find it, speaking of like sort of the hyper unreality that we live in, like you never know when you're on Twitter or TikTok if these images or if these accounts are like actual real people. And I think this is an interesting story about that kind of thing. So, what happened is the US Secret Service dismantled a network of electronic devices located throughout New York tri-state area that were used to conduct multiple telecommunications related threats directed towards senior US government officials. So I thought this story was very interesting. Um, let's see, what else do I have open? I don't know. I don't know if there's stuff that I feel like wanting to share right now. There's so much stuff I have open. But yeah, you never know like what you're interacting with or who you're interacting with if they're real at all. Um, oof. Then we have this wonderful piece. This came out last week, I guess, by the wonderful Tainashi Coates, whose dad, these people again. I want to remind everyone that they do not come out of a vacuum. Okay, this is the father of Tainashi Coates, uh, who founded the Black Classic Press, and is, of course, West Philadelphia, uh, which is known for a lot of things, Will Smith, among others. Um, but I believe if we were to yeah, we have him, he was involved in the Black Panther Party. So this is a descendant of a radical Black nationalist. And I'm always wondering, where's my movie about Black nationalists that's kind of like, uh, a, skinhead movie. Um, I feel like we're missing out. We're missing out on that stuff. All right, what is going on in here? One way or another, the Kirk business is surely related to Nazis and the occult to some degree. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's all very weird. I think also, like I'm showing here with the Coates people, these people do not come out of a vacuum. They are intergenerational. We have intergenerational kinds of people in this nation who, they're communists, they're red diaper babies, or they're, capitalists or whatever, but it's intergenerational. It's very rare that people come out of nowhere or nothing. I guess that's why everyone likes JD Vance so much, because he seems to have one of those rags to riches stories. The Kirk rabbit hole is freshly dug. Do I think Erica Kirk is transgender? No, I don't. I don't do that. I don't go for that uh everyone is transgender thing. Not my thing. Uh Eric and Charlize Kirk, or was no, I can't do that. I don't know if Terry ever watched this channel, but there was this woman who used to go by the deprogrammer here on YouTube, and I met her in New York. Right. So the second I start talking about weird stuff, my power goes out. There's not even a storm happening today at all. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I just wanted to come back here. Yeah. So deprogrammer is one of these people. It's so funny that I was about to talk about her and the power goes out. Um, anyway, so the deprogrammer was somebody I met in New York City who tried to convince us that everybody in power was trans of some kind. And that's when I felt kind of weird about her. Uh, and it's been a long enough time period where I don't even care that I'm talking about this anymore. It doesn't really matter to me. It used to matter, but I gave her a whole SD card worth of material, and she never returned it. So we have a little bit of beef, uh, even if she probably doesn't remember who I am. Either gone or audio cut out. Yeah, the electricity went out for no reason, for no discernible reason. Uh, yeah, that's that's why I think sometimes there's something going on. Even my low level channel, I get weird stuff happen. Um, the only time I talked to Curtis Yarvin uh, was like when my audio like refused to work. So I don't know. I get a lot of weird electronic like interference when I do these things. I don't know why. Um, so anyway, uh, I don't know how to make my here. There. It's just me. It's just me now. Um, Terry says, I think there's more stealth trans out there in the public eye, but not everyone is trans. Yeah, it's just what it's again, it's kind of like the flat earth thing where I can't really deal with stuff like that because it's too much of like I don't know, I can't prove this, and I kind of just like to talk about stuff that like is pretty provable or obvious. Like I don't really like I don't it's just kind of a personal preference, I guess, cuz like I have a great imagination. Like listen, I could get really wild with stuff if I wanted to, but um I try not to do that. I don't like going down those roads because I feel like they just, in the end, like you have to protect yourself and your mental health, and like that stuff will just make you go crazy. That's what I think. Um, so yeah, I believe deprogrammer took my SD card and sold my footage to Fox News, but again, that's just a hunch. Um, you think? I don't think they're that convincing that we'd be in the dark. Yeah, it's not a theory I subscribe to. I can't do it. Um, it's another waste of time to be imagining everyone is trans. Yeah, like for me, it's just like not really worth my mental space. I have other things going on that I find to be more interesting. Nicole Kidman's probably trans. It's in her name. Some of them aren't very convincing. Yeah, this is just not it's not something that I think about because I just think it's kind of silly. I was just gonna say I think it's kind of silly. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else that I can share with you guys. Um, of course, we have like the excellent Andy No reporting on all the Antifa stuff, which Terry in Portland probably knows better than the rest of us some of that. Um, and I guess he's gotten some threats of, I mean, he was hit by a concrete milkshake. They like to mix their milkshakes with quick dry cement and throw them at people. I guess Trump is trying to designate them as a terrorist organization, which I think is going to be pretty difficult. It's going to be an uphill battle. Um, let's see. Yeah, everyone goes with the Princess Stephanie of Monaco. I've heard that's another thing that the deprogrammer said. Stephanie of Monaco. So let's take a picture or let's look at a picture of this person. I mean, I just feel like this is a really ugly woman. Like I don't know. Like it's again, it's like to me there's other interesting things going on that like if you pay attention to this stuff too much, it'll make you insane. Let me see. I thought I had where is it? I have too many things open. Um, where is the tab that I have her image open in? Great, now I can't even find it. Window? No. Hold on. I think also, Terry, that Oswald has that kind of sense of humor where you can't really tell if he's joking. At least for me. Princess Stephanie, Monaco. Hold on, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I just have too many things open right now. Here we go. Here's an image. Here are some images of Princess Stephanie of Monaco. I mean, I can see why people think she's a man. Maybe that's true. I don't know. But then you get into this thing where you think everything's a lie all the time. And like I said, I think it'll just crazy. Press 1 if you think she's a man. Press 2 if you think she's a lady. Let's see. Yeah, Andy has siloed himself off into the UK. Does Japan or Uzbekistan have fewer trannies? Japan doesn't. Before I even got into any of this stuff, I was eating at McDonald's with a friend of mine. We were like, that was like something we would do like the next day if we had drank too much. And this guy comes over to us and points to this person and says, "What do you see over there?" You know, in this like really broken Japanese English. I mean, my friend were like, "I don't know, like a person like that looks kind of female." And he's like, "That's right. You can't tell that that's a man." And I'm like, I didn't know that I was going to be roped into such a thing at this point. But yeah, I guess I couldn't tell. But you know, it's easier for Asian people. I think they look more androgynous, but whatever. Um, it's not that I was so Uzbekistan was a thing that like I got offered by like the National Ministry of Education, but it just I don't know if I could like deal with it because it is overall a Muslim nation and that's not really something I'm that interested in. So, and I don't really want to teach ESL anymore. I like teaching literature. I like trying to facilitate discussions with kids. So I decided to turn that down. I don't think Princess Catherine, uh, nice to get a peek into threads that might be drawn together into future streams. Princess Stephanie is a whole ass man, girl. Come on. I don't know. Like I'm not trying to do that. It's just like again, like I have other things going on in my brain that I don't want to fill it with this kind of stuff. But, you know, I guess it's fun for like a live stream. Um Oswald says I can't even tell if I'm joking as often as not. Built like a linebacker. Looks like William H. Macy with less hair. If that thing came into my bathroom, I'd be scared. Yeah, yeah, her features aren't doing her any favors. I think in person you'd know immediately. Yeah, that's the thing. I think you'd have to just be in close proximity to this person because they can never really change their voices very fully or uh my uncle had a girlfriend from Uzbekistan, ethnically Russian, who said she could photosynthesize. What? What does that mean? What do you mean? That's a man, baby. Hey, you guys are, it's up to you to like make your own call on it. Personally, I don't care. It doesn't affect me in any way. And I have other things that I'm like more interested in, like, I don't know, the proliferation of artificial intelligence and the dumbing down of society and all sorts of things that, like, I just don't have really a lot of time for this kind of conjecture. Um, I guess that anti-aging measures could have some effect on gender blurring. Get bad reception at the gym. Oh, you're at the gym? Nice. Was it leg day, arm day? Which day is it? What are we working on? Yeah. So some more. These images really aren't, especially this one, not doing her any favors. But then people say, there she is, like, older. Looks more feminine here with the way the face is aging. Um, people say the same thing of Riley Gaines, like these women that have like sort of more masculine features, but I don't think, again, in person, I bet she's like kind of a small woman, Riley Gaines. And also I saw them attack her when she got shut into that room. So wait, let's go ahead and look at Andy's thing here. So in the wake of Charlie Kirk assassination, Antifa have been calling for him to be next. And this was something we were talking about, I think, on Terry's stream the other night, where I've been in public doing this stuff, and it makes you, like, first of all, I only did it like once because it made me pretty sick. Like, the adrenaline was so much that I could not handle it, really. And then there's like a target on your back. And if you live in a place like Philadelphia or Portland, these are not big cities. And I also lived in West Philly at the time, and like they could have followed me home and like made my life a living hell. So honestly, like, God bless Andy No. Portland Antifa member with a history of violent extremism has posted a threatening video of himself shooting up photos of me and Charlie Kirk. The old growth 131.2 account, which once operated another account called Redwood PDX on X, is tied to a man marked with an Antifa tattoo. Oh my God, have you guys seen? Okay, hold on. I have some like, it's ridiculous. So I was watching Nick Shirley and his coverage of like him being outside the UN when Trump was there. And apparently, they've adopted the One Piece logo as like a flag of theirs. It's crazy. Hold on. Let me see if I can find, like, so yeah, they just, like, we're in clown world. They've adopted the One Piece logo. This sort of silly looking Jolly Roger has a protest sign. It's like we live in clown world. It is Clown Town 24/7. It is Clown Town 24/7 here. Terry says, I think some elites trans their kids as part of a satanic agenda. It happens when they're young. It's not really their fault. Yeah, we have a lot of people that do. So we, like, I think Angelina Jolie, Cynthia Nixon, Jamie Lee Curtis. There's like a whole Naomi Watts. There's like a whole list of celebrities with like trans kids. So I don't see, that's the thing for me. Like, I don't need the speculation. Like, when we can point to like real actual cases. What do you guys think of this ridiculousness? Meanwhile, I guess Devo's kicking off their new tour. The Devo new tour, which is called, and I thought this was interesting, Cosmic De-Evolution, with a member of the B-52s here. So I don't know. I just feel like we live in a very silly reality and it's not very serious. And it's probably best not to take too much stock into certain theories that'll drive you crazy. It's leg day. You're on the seated leg curl machine. Nice. Get those reps in. Uh yeah, Riley Gaines definitely looks like a female next to other females. Um Riley's a babe. Clown world 24/7. That's where we're at. Uh yeah, are you watching the conspiracy explained videos of that guy? I think he came up with that idea that the clowns were Nephilim. What's interesting is that a lot of people, when they take DMT, is they see these entities that kind of look clownish. Um, I'm a few years younger than me. How, oh yeah, I guess you guys all know that I was born in 1983. You had a speaker at your university come and tell us. Yeah, so they're, and that's, part of it where they're trying to confuse an entire population of young people. And when they're more confused, they're more prone to doing the trans thing, which is a form of iatrogenic, illness, which is an illness created by the medical community. Like if you're on a drug and it makes you sick, but you continue to take it, that would be an example of what iatrogenic illness is. Oh dang, you know what? I'm using the internet from my phone. I'm like gonna run out of data. I probably should wrap this up. Uh, I guess I could put more data on my phone. In my emergency, I used my phone as a data hub. Maybe I could just connect to the internet on my phone because I am having a pretty good time, but I also have chores and stuff to do. Wi-Fi. Connect. All right, sorry if I'm in and out. It looks like it's fine now. Okay. Seated leg curl machine. I don't know. Squats are bust. Hey, if anyone's making the effort to work out, we're not going to make fun of them on this channel, okay? He's making an effort. Leave Schreiber. Leave Schreiber also seems like some kind of demon to me. Freshman in high school in 1983. Well, that's wonderful. We have a real Gen Xer here, a relic of another time. It makes sense. I've always loved clowns, but now you're like, ooh. So I actually have a weird story about that. Like, I had this friend that I knew for many, many years who I will not name, but we'll call her Ariel. And Ariel was really into dressing up like a clown and still is, even though she's 45 years old. And there was a night after we went to Disneyland in California, and this was back in my Gothic Lolita days. And she decided that she wanted to keep me up all night because she wanted to take all these weird pictures of herself. And I've come to believe, and then we had this whole falling out over the trans thing, and I told her she was in a political cult. And I've just come to believe that she has like some kind of horrible thing inside of her. Anyway, that's my story about a real life clown that I knew. The clown takes form in many different cultures. In Navajo cultures, it's called Heyoka. Okay, so let's look that up. Heyoka. Just give me a second. I have too many now. I have too many windows open. It's a whole mess over here. Heyoka. I think actually I can do this, like, hold on. I think I can do it in this tab now. Isn't it interesting that all these cultures have these similar kinds of uh, archetypes? I'm going to look this up in Google. I feel like the DuckDuckGo images are not doing it justice. So yeah, they're often in this sort of black and white paint. I think this is what we're talking about right now. And these, there's a whole guy whose like entire YouTube channel is devoted to this. I think it's like making sense of conspiracy or something like that. You ran out of data last month and it sucks. I can always up my data. Bergman. Who are we talking about? Concord and Hampshire College, Massachusetts. Yeah, Hampshire College has no grades. I went to Temple University. I did not. I went to like a very nice state school in Philadelphia. Yeah, I have way too many tabs open. And I've also not seen you before, Tumoplots, but welcome to the train wreck that is my channel. I almost never do it. I probably should, but I almost never do that. At S. Bear Bergman. I've never heard of this person. Let's look them up. S. Bear Bergman. Is this a trans man? Ugh. They always have that. No, I don't want AI mode. No, get out of here. Uh, a poet. Wikipedia. Yep. They always have that. See, like, I feel like you can tell also with these guys, they always have that look to them where they're like, it's not quite right. It's never quite right with anyone who does this to themselves. Um, Yikes, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. I've never, I was not that, that did not happen. So that wasn't even happening like when I went, and I went much later on something. Uh, Not, yeah, I have nothing to hide either. Like, and I mean, it'll sound paranoid, but I'm pretty convinced like someone's paying attention to me because I get a lot of weird stuff like electrical outages and I mean, you saw it already. Like, there was a time I was like researching this one like government website, and I went and like, I mean, sure, it was just a coincidence, but my debit card wouldn't let me take out cash anywhere I went that day. So I don't know. I don't know. Strange things happen when you're digging through this stuff. Ah, yes, this person. I commented on something I said on Karen's channel and found you that way. Huh. Which Karen? You don't mean, I'm not sure who you mean. Karen Strawn. I don't know who that is either. Yeah, of course it will. I mean, I do actually occasionally do it. I just haven't done it with this machine, I think, because I just got it and it's like something I do. I should do it more often. Oh, Karen Davis. We shall not speak her name here. I don't want to get upset. I don't want to get pissed off. I don't know. I've been dicking around now for a little too long. I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Um, I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. first half of this stream is me reading chapter 8 of Nazis in the Occult. Yeah, we're not going to talk about her. We're not going to talk about her. I'm going to go, I'm not going to talk about that because it's just not, I don't like being upset. It's going to piss me off. Roy Khan. All right, let's do that before we leave. Roy. Oh yeah, he is super creepy. What is this? What is this? He's Vanity Fair. Where's my Roy Khan? Digs into one of the 20th century's most evil men. I can't say I know who this is, but it seems like something interesting to read. So maybe I'll do that after I leave the stream. There are always so many creeps to look at. Yes. Yes, guys. So I think maybe I'll come back Friday. I don't know. I don't know when I'll be back. I like to read the book and like just relax. I'm not sure who he is. Let's go back to the Google search. And then I really will go. Roy Marcus Kahn was an American lawyer and prosecutor. He first gained fame as a prosecutor of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Oh, well, they were spies. I don't think they were innocent at all, to be honest. I've not looked into it myself, but my friend Roberta Glass has looked into it, and I usually trust her take on things. One of Trump's mentors, right? Total rabbit hole. All right, well, maybe I'll look at him. Maybe he'll get a Creeps of History video, something I haven't done in years now. I literally woke up and thought, like, who I don't like? Ayn Rand. And then I made that video, and it's like one of the most watched videos I've ever made. So call it divine inspiration or whatever. My grandmother said she thought Ethel was innocent. She thought OJ was too. Aw, you're nice, grandma. No, I don't think the Rosenbergs were innocent at all. At all. So that's it. I think I'm going to go because I'm a little hungry and I got a lot of chores to do around the house. And I'm getting ready to go to this AI conference on Friday to meet Joe Allen and see him talk. And that's exciting. And I do appreciate all of you for joining me. And I will catch you on the flip side. Take care. God bless. Have a great day. Goodbye.